Hey everyone, welcome to the channel or welcome back to the channel. Really appreciate you stopping by. Hey, today I wanted to talk about some options for organizing notes on the Boox platform. And some of this will translate to other platforms as well, like the Supernote, or in some cases even Remarkable, ViWoods, or Kindle. But not every single one of these is going to translate because of features of the devices that are available. So I see that there's four different methods available for organization. And as you watch this video, you may think, well, there's more than four. He left out this one. And I would really encourage you in the comments to mention that if I do, or if you use one of these four methods, but you have a twist on it, you have some other way that you enhance it, make it better, tweak it, or whatever. Also share that in the comments. I'd love to learn from you. I'm sure that others that are watching the video would love to learn from you as well. So really encourage you to do that. With that said, let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so the first method that we're going to talk about today is individual notes for individual meetings or whatever you happen to take notes for. For my use case, I take a lot of notes for meetings, so that's my number one, I guess, use case for any of my ink devices, and that's meetings. So you're going to hear me say that a lot. I'll just use that as my reference. So for individual notes, if I'm going to have a single note for every single meeting that I attend throughout each day, each week, month, and year, or whatever, that's going to be a lot of notes. So it's going to require a lot of forethought as far as organization on my part. And the way that I do that is I create a folder for each one of my topics. Now, in my case, I have 27 to 30 different topics or meetings that I go to on a regular basis that I like to keep organized. For my example here, you're not going to see my exact organization system or my topics, but I will put some samples out here. For example, I created some folders called Meeting with Boss, Planning Session, Staff Meeting, and Training Sessions, and I'll go into how I organize from there. So these are my topics. As I go into the notes, for example, Meetings with Boss, you'll see that I've then got it organized, or I have it organized by year, 2024 and 2025 in my example here, because with the volume of notes that I take for just this one topic, really going to want to break that up by year. And if you take enough notes, you may even want to break it down into month within that year. I don't go to that extra step. I just keep it by the year. But the additional thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you have a naming convention for your files that is consistent from note to note so that every time you're looking for a note, you know what order it's going to be in. For example, here I have them organized, or I have them named as the year first, the month second, and the day of the month third. Each one of those is separated by a hyphen. That's the way that it's one of the ways that we look at things in the US. You may have a different order that you prefer, certainly do whatever you wanted to do. But then I'll put the name of the meeting after that. I haven't done it here in my example, but I would typically say 2025-04-28 and then Meetings with Boss. So that I know what that is. And the reason, it's in a folder that says Meeting with Boss anyway. Why do I go ahead and take that extra step to name the file with that as well? Because what if I want to export all this and I want to organize it in some other system on a laptop, computer, OneNote, whatever the case may be? I want to be able to identify that note very easily if it gets mixed in with others. So that's really the reason for doing that. So really the individual note is simple. You just have to have a folder system, subfolder system, and a naming convention to make that work. So the second organizational method is to, instead of doing individual notes for each meeting, in my case, you just have one long note that grows meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. Now, you have to have a device that has some very specialized functionality or features to be able to help you keep that organized. Because if you think about something like a Remarkable, which I would not recommend using this method on a Remarkable or a Kindle or even a ViWoods, because of the fact that as this grows, you're going to have, and you want to go back and you want to find a specific meeting, you're going to have to scroll through pages a lot, or you're going to have to, go into the thumbnail view of all your pages and see if you can pick out what you're looking for there. That's not going to be an optimal way of finding things. You can also use tags. Certainly, it can be made easier with tags on one of those devices, but on the Boox device, as well as on the Supernote device, you have the ability to create a quasi table of contents. So on the Boox device, they call it outlines. Supernote, they call it headings. But I'm going to focus on the books here today. So I also, as you see in here, I also have a structure where I break things down by year, 2024 and 2025. But as I go into the year, I don't take the extra step of breaking that down into subfolders beyond there. I don't need a folder for each one of these separate notes because one note is just a single container, and there's not going to be another instance of it. If you have notes that are getting extremely large and it's about to hit the limit of the device that you're on, for example, I think on the Supernote you have a 2 GB limit per note. If it's going to exceed that, you may want to consider putting it in folders. I'm not sure what the limit on books is. I'll have to look that up, and I'll put it in the comments if I find it. But as you see here, I've got a note for meetings with boss. And I've already divided this one up. I'll show you how I did it in just a second. But I have 9 pages currently in this note, and I have 3 different meetings that are being covered by this particular note. So what I've got is I've broken this up into outline. Boox calls it an outline. So I've got an outline that shows me the page that the first meeting for 428 is on. The second meeting is on page 4, and it's on 530. The third meeting is on page 8, and it was dated 6/29. So I can jump to any one of those very quickly and get to it. Now I'll show you how I did that. You can long press anywhere on a page that you want to make that page part of your outline. I can choose the bottom function here. It says add to outline. I can name that outline. For example, boss meeting, July 7th, 2025, whatever the case may be. Click OK, and then it becomes part of your outline section here, and it makes it really easy to navigate a very large and complex notes file. The third method of organization is really something that you could tack on to option number 1 or option number 2, your individual notes or your one continuous long note. And that's creating a table of contents for those notes. I'll use the one long continuous note in this particular example, but you can create a note, just as a note by itself, call it table of contents, and then you can create links within that to go to your longer notes, so that you've got, and I'm assuming you're like me and you've got 30 different subjects that you've got to do, you got to keep up with. Well, this will allow you to not have to go and try to read the titles of each one of the files in your folder system. You can just link to it here. So what I've done is I've created a text box, and I'll recreate this here. I created a text box, and then I just put in here boss meeting. I'll expand the corners, and then I can come in. So that's I'm not going to move it around the page just yet, but then I can come over here to insert and links to note. And then here's my meetings with boss note. I'm going to check that. I looked in my recent notes, which is one that I've used recently. Click OK. I'm going to tell it, you've got the option to do icon only or icon and title. I'm going to say icon only. And here's my icon. I'm going to come and drag it next to this. And now I've got a link to that particular, I'm sorry, I went out of my note there. And now I've got a link to that particular meeting. So all I have to do is click on the little icon, and then it'll pop up, telling you what it's going to go to, and then it'll take me to that note. So that works really well if you have a lot of notes. You don't want to have to go through your folder system to be able to find it. But when you, and by the way, when you link to a note, Boox has a feature. You can see this it's a different looking back button. What it is, and it's got a little picture of a link down there, but if you navigate to a page via a hyperlink, Boox gives you a way to get back to the original page, and that's what you see up here. I can click on that, and it will go back to my table of contents. So, and Supernote does something very similar to that at the bottom of your screen. So this works really well with that long continuous note. If you are going to use it for the individual notes, where you could have hundreds of notes over a period of time, here's what I'd suggest doing. And I'm not going to show it in the demo because of the length of time it would take to show it. I will do a video if enough people say, hey, I want to see how you did that. But I would suggest making a table of contents just like this for your, 30 topics or whatever, however many topics you have. That's my use case. Go ahead and make that table of contents that goes to a second table of contents. Now, you would need a table of contents for each one of your topics. For example, your boss meetings, your team meetings, your training meetings, whatever the case may be. Within those folders, you would need to create a table of contents that is going to be constantly changing. So every time you add a new note, you need to add a new entry to your table of contents here, and to link to that note. So you've got a way to navigate around without having to try to find individual notes. It's a lot of maintenance. To me, it's worth it. I enjoy having the hyperlink system in there, but it may not be your cup of tea because it's a lot of maintenance. But so that's option number 3. So option number 4, and one that I really love to use, is a well-built hyperlink PDF workbook, specifically for meetings or whatever your use case might be. So here's one that I actually use for work. I've blanked out everything so that you really can't tell much about it. But so I have, as you can see, 30 different topics. So this is kind of my main page that shows what my topics are. I'm using 27 out of those 30 currently. Every one of these blanks is hyperlinked. The entire link the entire blank is hyperlinked. I can click on one or touch one with my finger. It will take me to a sub table of contents. Like I mentioned, if you're using that the individual notes and you wanted to create a table of contents, you would need a sub table of contents, sort of like this, to be able to make that system work a little bit better. So within this subtable of contents, just for that one topic, I have 52 blanks for individual notes here. So that's 52 weeks in the year. If it's a weekly meeting, that covers me for the entire year. So I can handwrite in whatever I want to write. For example, I could write here. This is a hyperlinked field. If I were to touch that with my finger, it would go to the actual notes pages. So each one of these 52 notes has 3 pages assigned to it. If I go into, for example, visit notes here, I can begin writing my notes, and I can use up to 3 pages for writing notes. Now, you never know when you go into page 4. But if you do, what you're doing is you're beginning to encroach on this next note here. That would be page 4 of this note. So you have to be very careful when you use these types of books. You can always add insert a page in there if you wanted to. What I love about it is that I've also got a place for a work journal. You can do it by month. I could, come in here and look at July 2nd. Or let me just go to something else, July 19th. And then it's year independent. So I would put whatever year I'm putting in here, I would just say it's 2025. The day of the week, I have no idea what the day of the week is for that particular date. And then where was I? I'll just say home. I'll usually put my city there. And then I can put my notes in here and, what did I do that day at work or whatever. And then I've also got to-do lists. Since I had 30 subjects on my notes page, I also have 30 subjects for a to-do list, and I can, whatever my subject is, I can, write it in, and then I can come to a to-do list where I can write specific, to-dos for that particular topic. But with that said, there's a lot of different note-taking systems that are available on Etsy. You can find them free on some of the Facebook groups or, other places, but a good, well-made, hyperlinked PDF workbook is very attractive to me, and I think it's because I built my own and it kind of fits for what I want it to, or how I want it to work. So those are the 4 methods of organizing notes on the Boox device. As I said, it also translates to some other devices as well. Would really love to hear from you. Do you use any one of these 4, or do you have something different that maybe you could share with us? Or do you have, some things that you've learned that just really work better on one of these 4 that you could also share with us as well? Really look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Really appreciate you watching the video. If you get a chance, if you want to, please like the video. And I would really appreciate a subscription. If you like the content here, you can get notified of upcoming content that's very similar to this. I focus on tablets here, mostly on e-ink devices, but also you'll see some videos on other LCD or OLED type tablets as well. But anyway, so really just appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.